What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the Suicide Squad soundtrack. The movie just dropped alongside the album, and I know I don't cover a ton of soundtracks, but you guys were begging for me to cover this one, and I covered the Ghostbusters one a few weeks ago that actually turned out to be pretty solid. There were some songs on there like the Five Sauce track, and ones from Walk the Moon, and a few others that I really enjoyed, so I decided to go ahead and check out the Suicide Squad soundtrack. There were some big names on here, and obviously once again this isn't an entirely original soundtrack. Just like the Ghostbusters one, they used some old songs, some new ones, some ones that came out recently from other artists that seem applicable, I suppose, to them, at least the people who are putting this album together, to the film at hand. But a lot of the tracks on the Suicide Squad soundtrack just seem a little bit far-fetched to actually fit in with what's going on with the movie. That being said, I have not seen Suicide Squad as of recording this video, and I'm not sure exactly how well this would tie into it, but I'm also not dying to rush out and go see the movie, considering it's sitting at about a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes as of now. There's some big names on this record, some big draws and reasons for people to check it out. Obviously, that's what Warner Brothers and Atlantic wanted to do with that. They wanted you to see Panic at the Disco, 21 Pilots, Rick Ross, Skrillex, Mark Ronson, all of these big names, and they want you to go check out their soundtrack. And I thought it was kind of weird that Mark Ronson is featured not only on the Ghostbusters one, but once again here on this new Suicide Squad soundtrack. There's a lot of different sounds here, and the one thing that I can say is pretty consistent through and through is the dark vibe. A lot of these tracks, though, don't do it so well. They try to create this atmosphere of darkness like they're in Gotham City, and yeah, it just comes off as kind of pandering. There's a track from Action Bronson on here that I don't see how relates to this film at all. I mean, it's a track that seems to be about cheating, and I cannot stand his delivery on this track whatsoever. And then Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys on the hook along with Mark Ronson producing. It's just a muttered mess. Dark themes and hip-hop are one thing that stay pretty consistent all throughout. Even with 21 Pilots, they're associated with hip-hop in a way, considering the elements that they put into their music. One that really stands out in the soundtrack for me, obviously being the Bohemian Rhapsody cover by Panic at the Disco. This is one that they've been performing live for years, now translating that into a soundtrack, and honestly, I think I prefer the live version. I've heard it so many times, I've seen it performed live, and honestly, I'm a little bit sick of it at this point. We finally got a studio recording, and it's not even as good as the live one, so I suppose that's all I'm gonna say on that one. I really do love their live cover. Sounds fantastic, but Yuri just seems a little bit limited here in terms of what he's doing with his vocals. He's not unleashing as much as I thought he would on a studio version, where he could just knock it out, do as many takes as he wants, and absolutely kill some of those high notes. There's some older tracks from War and of course Creedence Clearwater Revival that appear on the soundtrack. I'm a big fan of both of those. Slipping Into Darkness and of course Fortunate Son, one that I was exposed to very early as a child, considering I was a big fan of the Forrest Gump films, so were my parents, so I was listening to Creedence Clearwater Revival from a very early age, so it's nice to see it appearing on the soundtrack. Even though it is a little bit overused, I can definitely see how this would be applicable to the whole Suicide Squad thing that's going on. I was excited for a couple of the other names attached to this project, Skrillex being one of those, and of course Grimes as well, so I'm going to go ahead and dive into those tracks. Skrillex and Rick Ross, of all people, team up on a track called Purple Lamborghini, and I heard the preview of it and I was not impressed the first time. I heard about a minute and a half of the track and I was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this. I don't know about this Suicide Squad soundtrack. I don't know at least about this track in particular, considering I wasn't really a fan of Sucker for Pain that came out preceding that. I was a huge fan of Heathens. Obviously, if you would like to see more thoughts on that, I did an entire track review, but it's the best song on this soundtrack by far. They really impressed me with just how they dive into this darkness and make it applicable not only to this film, but really just life in general, and obviously the 21 Pilots fandom. But with the track Purple Lamborghini, with repeated listens, I found myself really enjoying this. It's one of those songs that you just want to get in the car and drive fast to, and I miss that side of Skrillex. The beats he's laying down here are absolute fire. The drop here, absolutely nuts. I could listen to it over and over again. And Rick Ross's part of the song, yeah, it's actually not that bad. The more I've listened to it, the more it's grown on me. I've never considered myself a Rick Ross fan, but yeah, he actually gets pretty enthusiastic, pretty energetic with his rap performance on this track, and I have to say kudos, one of my favorite songs on the soundtrack. Aside from praising those few tracks there, I don't really have that much positive to say about the Suicide Squad soundtrack. In fact, it gets downright bad in places, all the way down from Skylar Grey ripping off Kanye West's Black Skinhead on her track Wreak Havoc that is just pretty blatant, especially if you just go and play the songs next to each other. There's a track called You Don't Own Me by Grace, and Shudder, G-Eazy. I've been forced to listen to him twice in the past month because of these damn soundtracks. You Don't Own Me is the name of that track with G-Eazy on it, and this new up-and-coming singer, Grace, and it is such a millennial piece of garbage. It's feeding this down our throats that, look, you know, I'm a strong, independent woman, I don't need a man, and it does it in a way that it's not like, oh, this feels empowering. It's just like, no, I read a bunch of BuzzFeed articles, and now I'm gonna preach to you until you get it. Young Gerald sounds flat and uninteresting as always, but I will say that one thing I can compliment about this track, I like how it kind of oddly shifts. I don't really like the shift that much, but once we get to this part that seems very like 50s, 60s, maybe even early 70s, like something like the Carpenters influenced, where Grace is kind of singing, don't tell me what to do, don't tell me what to say. I don't like the lyrics at all. In fact, she's getting Meghan Trainor preachy on that track. Think Dear Future Husband. But no, I actually do like that kind of throwback. It's not like a desperate grab, I don't feel like, but it's kind of like a dreamy pop scenario, and it actually sounds pretty good. If she could have maybe put some different words to it, maybe I would have liked it more. I can't stand the tracks that come back to back, Standing in the Rain with Action Bronson, Mark Ronson, and of course Dan from the Black Keys. This track is just garbage in my opinion. The chorus has nothing to do seemingly with the verses. It's just totally jarring, especially whenever it shifts out of Bronson's weird flow back into this kind of downtrodden Mark Ronson production. Just does not work at all for me. And then we have Kalani on the track Gangsta right afterwards, and it's pretty much every cliche in the book. It's like somebody sat down, read up a little bit on Wikipedia or on Google or something about like, what are some phrases that people say surrounding gangsters? Okay, gangsta, ride or die. Okay, you know, I got it. Okay, now I'm gonna go write this song in about 10 minutes for the Suicide Squad soundtrack. I've kind of gone out of my way to avoid Kevin Gates, especially after hearing that Two Phones song that I just didn't care for at all. And even though on this track it does seem like he opens it up with his best Flo Rida impersonation, I mean, seriously, I thought it was the one and only Flo opening up this epic track, and I was like, oh shit, we're gonna get another performance, another #1 hit from Flo Rida coming back after all these #1s, but no, sadly, it was just Kevin Gates with the track, and it actually turns out to be not so bad. In fact, it's hard to say that many good things about this record, but in comparison, whenever you're calling the Kevin Gates track No Better one of the best songs on the album, you know, things are a little bit weak, and that's kind of unfortunate. And speaking of unfortunate, we have the track with Imagine Dragons, Wiz Khalifa, Ty Dolla $ign, and Lil Wayne teaming up for your new favorite hit, Sucker for Pain. Ooh. Nah, but really there's nothing to cheer about here, considering Imagine Dragons are just continuing their streak of appearing on every soundtrack every single year. They have to keep that streak alive, or I've heard that their record contract gets terminated. Wiz Khalifa comes in with a lazy verse that sounds like something that's straight out of See You Again territory, with just every cliche in the book. It's like, okay, once again, I'm just gonna copy after this Gangsta song, just copy it down to a T, make it nice and lazy for the audience. Lil Wayne comes in with an asinine verse. It just sounds like he's stumbling in the dark over his own words, doesn't know exactly where he wants to go with the song, and he talks about peanut butter and jelly in his rhymes here. Like, where was he going? This song is such a misfire, and if I have to hear the Imagine Dragons hook one more time, it plays like 6 or 7 times. I swear to God, I'm gonna crush something with my bare hands. I'm sure a lot of you guys are curious as to what I thought of the Grimes track, Medieval Warfare, and after coming off of her last project, Art Angels, I was curious to see where she would go with this. And it's a very, very noisy song, one that I'm kind of on the fence with, but it's also kind of grown on me. Her words are often buried under these huge barrages of like bass and loud thundering guitars, and it's actually kind of like cool in a way. I like hearing building this like wall of noise, and it seems like it would kind of fit with this movie, and it's like, okay, I don't know what's coming next. And then Grimes' voice is just kind of cutting through, kind of like calm, but also kind of aggravated in the background, so I do like that aspect of it. It's just that it runs on a little bit long, and I feel like it feels a little bit misguided in the long run. Overall, guys, I cannot say that I really enjoyed this soundtrack much at all. There's a few songs that I will come back to. Panic's studio cover, a little bit disappointing, although I still do love that song, obviously, and I do love their live rendition. I just feel like it could have been handled a little bit better, but I do love the backing vocals, the guitar solos. Everything about that track is still pretty good. It's just maybe I've heard it too much at this point. The Heathens song by 21 Pilots, fantastic, and obviously Purple Lamborghini, Rick Ross and Skrillex, gonna be coming back to that one as well. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section down below. For me personally, I can't give it higher than a 2 out of 5. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the Suicide Squad soundtrack. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below, and if you've seen the movie, let me know if it's worth checking out or if I should just wait till it comes out on DVD or something like that. I'd be curious to see what you guys thought, and if you think the soundtrack fits with the theme of the movie. Thanks so much for watching, hitting the like button on this review, subscribing to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. If you like the channel, what you see here, of course, you can maybe support on Patreon. It's that top link in the description down below if you would like to help the videos keep coming, or just share it with a friend to help the community keep growing right here at ARTV. You can check out my second channel, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything like that, linked in the description. You can check those little annotations floating below me for the last album review that I did on the channel, or a similar video that you might like. And other than that, I'll see you guys very soon right here on ARTV.